We are back! Thanks for holding with us. We did a lot while we were gone, but thanks for you understanding that the Yossi Schmidt Show had technical difficulties where we could not do the podcast over the past 2 months. But here we are. We are back. Here this Monday, September 12th, we are back. I have to reflect on the fact that yesterday was September 11th. Before I talk about Team One Supporter, yesterday was September 11th. 21 years ago yesterday, the greatest attack on America took place. And that allowed a lot of things to happen. That showed how vulnerable we are. It allowed for President Bush to launch war on Afghanistan. We have to take a moment and we have to really think what our security processes are. We have to think about how we go forward from here. It's a really horrific nightmare that people lived through. People died. People survived. People didn't make it. People didn't make it to work on that day. It was a real tragedy. It was an attack. It was an actual terrorist attack. Whether it happened from inside the country or from outside the country, it makes no difference. We cannot forget about what 9/11 was. 9/11 is never forget and never again. We can never forget. No one should use it for political purposes. No one should use it to advertise. No one should use it for anything. 9/11 is a day that will always go down in history, and people should never forget. Now that we got that marked, we have to remember the Team One Supporter was gone for 2 months because we had technical issues. But while we were gone, we launched a weekly live show on Getter every Tuesday at 4 p.m. exclusively on Getter. We go live for about 10 minutes where I talk about holding people accountable and much, much more. So that is right. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have a Getter live show on my profile. Join and get to see me live. Also, while we were gone, I made sure I announced a massive change to Team One Supporter. Not a change, an addition. We are now doing reviews of alternative social media platforms and businesses. We are doing reviews of businesses. Why not hold businesses accountable too? Why not rate businesses so you can know what you're getting into? So we are now doing reviews of businesses. We have our first business lined up. We're waiting for the details to work out, but stay tuned. Second, we have now released an op-ed on the Team One Supporter website explaining why a review of alternative social media platform is necessary. Read that. Make sure to read it. We will be releasing another op-ed very soon. Stay tuned for the announcement. However, now that I got those announcements out of the way, one more announcement before we dive right into what happened over the past 2 months and Biden weaponizing the DOJ. The announcement is Team One Supporter comes across as something that's globalist. I don't know if you're a fan of the Yossi Schmidt Show or you're tuning in now for the first time ever, but I'm going to specify this. Team One Supporter has a very big stance against controlling people. I'm a fighter for the Constitution. We fight for American freedoms. We don't want the Constitution left behind. If someone doesn't like the Constitution, then they can leave America. You swear to uphold the Constitution, you have to follow and keep to that swear. That oath of office. Otherwise, be removed from office. However, I thought long and hard about this. People have told me that Team One Supporter sounds globalist. We are now considering a name change. You heard it here correctly, and you heard it here. We are considering a name change. Please email me and contact me regarding whatever name you think we should go to. Thank you. We are really considering this. Because I don't want to give anyone the impression that we can control people's lives when I stand for the exact opposite of fighting for freedom. Now, while I was gone, the Biden White House thought it was a good idea to weaponize the DOJ. They sent the DOJ to raid President Trump's home when he wasn't home. The judge who signed off on the warrant was an Epstein-linked judge, one of his lawyers, who spoke negatively about President Trump. They released the affidavit, and the affidavit showed nothing but redaction. And the little bit that we did see showed that it was politically motivated, and it showed that they did not want him to run again. Alan Dershowitz has said that it makes no difference if they indict him or not. He is going to be able to run. Now, I think what they did by raiding President Trump's home is they handed him the 2024 election. Now, if you wonder or not, I'm not him. I would love to have him on the show, but we don't know. However, what I want to say is President Biden saw the type of reaction he received for weaponizing the DOJ. President Biden went ahead and a couple weeks ago labeled half of America semi-fascists. He labeled civilians as semi-fascists. He had a dictatorship background, read with using Marines as a backdrop, as props. People, President Biden is the epitome of a dictator. He's trying his hardest to get as much power as he can. Now, the real question is, you could say to me, Yossi, he's not a dictator. He doesn't have enough brains to do it. You're right. He's a puppet for somebody. Who is that? Who is he a puppet for? That's what the reporters need to find out. But the reporters are too busy smashing Trump and smearing Trump and bashing Ron DeSantis and bashing everyone they possibly can. Because they're not doing their jobs. They're burying journalism. I did a previous episode about this in the past. People, we have to fight back. We have to hold everyone accountable. This podcast is to hold Yossi Schmidt Show and whatever Team Will supporter will be in the future accountable. The reviews is to hold alternative social media platforms accountable, businesses accountable, and the media is to hold the politicians accountable. But the media is not doing that, like we just said. We need to hold the media accountable. If the media refuses to be held accountable and dodges questions and dodges everything, we need to start the media. We need to become the media. We need to do whatever we can to hold the media accountable and start new medias. I am not going to say which media outlets are good or bad, because that's up to you to decide. You have to do your own research. I do research for my daily TWS News Roundup, but you got to do your own research. Of course, I verify news and I take responsibility for whatever is on the roundup. However, it's time for you to separate. You can go to the roundup, but do your own research. Even hold me accountable with my roundup. Even hold me and verify what I did. And call me out if something is false. Go ahead, call me out. Because everyone has to be called out. Everyone has to be held accountable, including our politicians, so Joe Biden can't become the dictator that he wants to become. We need to stand and fight against fascism. He's the definition of a fascist. America, we are going to fight back. I have to specify this. In order to fight back, we need to vote in people that will keep to the Constitution. And how do we do that? There's a coming red wave. Yossi, don't worry, we got this. Do we got this? Do we? Take a look at the polls. It doesn't look so simple. Guys, make sure all your friends vote. Make sure all your friends are registered to vote. Make sure that everyone got this. Everyone is going to vote. Break down the issues. You do what Scott Presler does. You break down the issues. Get people energized to vote. Convince people to vote. You could do this. You don't need Scott Presler to come down. Even though he's the king at what he does, you don't need Scott Presler to come down. You could do it yourself. Call your friends. Tell them, I know you don't want to talk politics, but you got to make a difference. You do what you do, because otherwise, you're going to get affected. You're going to get labeled a fascist because you want to keep to the Constitution. Because you want Biden gone, you're going to get labeled a fascist. People, we cannot have this. But the only way we will make sure we don't have this is if we make sure that everyone votes. We make sure that turnout in 2022 is amazing. I will not stop bringing this up in every podcast until I know for a fact that people are going to go vote. Make sure your voices are heard. Use your right. Tell everyone that you went to vote. Make it impossible for them to steal elections. Show them that you make a difference. Your vote does count. We can win in a landslide if you actually go vote and actually convince your friends what the left is doing. People, we got this. But only if you do your part. Every single person has a part to do, and you got this. I just want to say, I'm recording this podcast before September 11th. Yes, I took a moment in the beginning of the show to reflect on September 11th because this is going to air on September 12th. However, we have to realize that I recorded this podcast before. I'm recording this podcast on September 7th. On September 7th, yesterday, Hollywood Elite announced that she's cutting all contact with Republican family members. And she wakes up with nightmares about Tucker Carlson. I'm ending off the show with this. The reason why I'm talking about it, and I'm not mentioning her name, is because, like Dan Bongino always says, we view the left as people with ideas, with bad ideas. The left views us as bad people with ideas. That's how Biden was able to label us as fascists. Guys, the left is people. I'm not trying to demonize anyone. I refuse to demonize anybody. The left are people. The left are good people. They just have bad ideas because they're brainwashed. Or maybe they're not brainwashed. But I tend to think that they're brainwashed by the media. Hold everyone accountable. Make sure everyone votes. And keep your eyes open to the news. We can save America. We got this. Thank you. And see you next week. I'm happy to be back.